This is Hammond.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. If you like what you're listening to, please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast.
Hey, Hammond, how are you feeling?
Oh, I have such a headache this week.
Hammond has a different sickness this week.
I know. I blame the kids. As I will do for everything ever.
So this week sucked.
This week did suck.
I feel like we say that every week.
That's because every week does suck.
Yeah, so this is, we're recording on Friday, the 17th. It's noon. It's among our earlier recording sessions, but I'm heading into the city after this. So yesterday we found out about the allegations about Al Franken, and that fucking sucks.
It does. Because he's so good on the issues, and he's so good on women's issues.
And it just,
So what do you do with him? Because I've been going back and forth on this. I'll see like one person say it was not harmless. It was a stupid thing he did, but it happened way back before he even thought he was going to be a senator.
It was like 10 years ago. We're not talking the 70s.
Right. So it happened 10 years ago. Should have known better.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
But since then, he's, as far as we know, been really, really good on everything. So do you hold it against him? Or do you just say, look, that was stupid. You should feel really bad. Mm-hmm. And he apologized. If you want to accept that apology, his accuser did. And then say, okay, let's just move forward from here. Or do you say, get rid of him. He should resign because, it's not going to hurt the Democrats because the Democratic governor of Minnesota will just appoint someone else.
Right.
And that opens the door for someone even more awesome.
Yeah.
So politically speaking, it's not going to make a difference.
Right. No, and I think this is just a hard thing for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is I think Senator Franken has probably some of the bigger name recognition among the Democratic Party just because of his comedy background. And he is outspoken, and he has been really good on a lot of the issues. And I think the reason that this hit me really close to home is I was like, this could be one of our stars. Like I remember, I think it was Betsy DeVos. He was.
He was going just hard on her.
Yeah, and so he felt like one of the good ones. TM. Mm-hmm. So this sucks, but it's also really not that surprising. Like, as somebody who was for a while at the very fringes of the Chicago comedy scene, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, yeah, and anyone who's a comedian, I'm sure they have a million stories like this. I guess one thing that I still haven't figured out the answer to in my head is, like, how much of someone's past, when should it come back to, like, haunt them in a good way? Like, not in a good way. Like, when should it come back to hurt them? Like, Roy Moore's thing happened, decades ago, but that seems serious enough that it should bear some sort of...
But also, here's the other thing is... And I haven't decided what I think about this, so I'm probably just going to be disagreeing with everything because I'm really conflicted and angry about this. The difference between Roy Moore... Two main differences between Roy Moore and Franken. One is that pedophilia, I think, is kind of a red flag deal. Well, I don't know, because Franken, I guess, is like sexually assaulted her. I'm sorry, I'm working this out loud. Mm-hmm. But okay, regardless, like given an even playing field, Franken immediately admitted it. Weak apology, then came out with a pretty good apology. And basically opened himself up to, like, if there needs to be an ethics committee thing.
Like, I'll submit myself to it, it's fine.
So I think in that regard, like, I'd rather somebody who says, hey, I fucked up. Because, and I was thinking about this on the drive over I have, Time Hop. Do you ever use that? It's like it's an app that pulls from 1 year ago today or 5 years ago today. Yeah. And I'll see like shit I posted in college, which was 10 years ago for me. Like, ooh, that wasn't great. And I've learned and I've grown. Would I want somebody to like see that? Probably not. But is there something to be said about, I understand what I did was wrong, and I've grown, and he's good with women's issues now, despite...
Does any of that make up for whatever he did?
I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, like you, like, I'm sure if you go back long enough, I mean, every time on the blog, I'm like, oh, why did I say that stupid thing
Yeah.
yesterday, much less 10 years ago? But if you
Yeah.
go back, I mean, all my archives are there. You can go back 5, 6, 7 years, and it's like, oh, God, why did I post that? Like, I'm so cringy, embarrassed by whatever I posted, and I'm not that person now.
Right, but here's the difference is like so I'm rewatching Will and Grace right now, and they say some things that are like pretty fucking transphobic.
Yeah.
And now I think if that show, well, I guess that show.
Are you
is
talking
kind of
about the old episodes?
The old, yeah. I'm back in the 90s, 2000s, and they say some like really transphobic shit. But like, does that take away the fact that that show did like portray gay people in a positive way, despite the fact that they're kind of stepping on trans people to do so, which is fucked up. Now that I'm saying, I don't know. I hate this.
Yeah, I know. My first thought was like, why? If he's resigning over that, I feel like if Franken had to resign over what he did, I feel like there's bound to be way worse things that are going to come out of the closet for other politicians. And fine, the argument there is like, good, get rid of all of them.
Yes.
And
my philosophy is generally burn it to the ground. Let's try again.
Yeah. At the same time, again, this is the other side that I'm like, oh, but that's a good point too. It's like, well, his accuser accepted his apology.
Right.
And he seems genuinely remorseful. Like, I don't think he would do anything like that now. But again, if more stories come out, I'll revise this.
Yeah.
But like, it's one story. It was stupid. It happened a while ago. And again, he doesn't seem like he's doing that now. And he's really, really good as a champion for women's issues. So does any of that make up for it?
I don't know. Because here's my other thought. Should he be a sacrificial lamb?
Yeah.
As Democrats, should we be like, no, look we found it in our party and we rooted it the fuck out because it's unacceptable.
You know what's going to happen at the end of all this. Franken's going to resign and Roy Moore will be in the Senate.
But if Franken resigns, don't you think there's more, or if he goes through this ethics committee and they find him, I don't know what's the result of it? Can they demand his resignation?
I don't even know because it doesn't happen.
But would that not set a good precedent for like saying Roy Moore does get elected?
Sure, if they actually lived up to
Christians.
it. But again, I don't trust that the Republicans are going to say, well, Al Franken left, therefore everyone who's like him or worse.
No, but it definitely gives liberals and Democrats a higher ground to be like, well, Well,
we had the higher ground a long time ago, and it didn't do jack shit.
I know, but we have to.
How come it's only one party that has to do all the things the right way in theory?
Because there needs to be one grown up in the room. There needs to be one person who's thinking about literally anything besides like their own dick.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you. Like, I feel like if he resigns, that would suck because it would be disappointing. But again, it would be a Democratic governor appointing someone who's probably awesome on this stuff too, and probably young and could be around for a long time. That's all good. If it were a Republican governor, this is a whole bunch of speculative games, which is probably dangerous. But it's like, at what point would I be like, no, he should definitely not resign? Because if his seat were to flip, then it's like, well, that would do more damage to these issues and these causes in the long term. And then I don't know if I'd be saying the same thing. So, I don't know. I'm still working through it.
I have no idea. And this is like a icky place to be. Like, I really like deciding yes or no. And I am so struggling in this sort of moral gray area of, okay, what's the greatest good for the most people? I would say is, you could argue it's him staying in because he's doing
and
good.
Keep fighting for these issues.
Right. Or is the greatest good getting him to be booted out to be an example for men of like, hey, if you have shit in your past that you think is buried, it's not.
Okay, here's another question I had, and that's a fair point. It's what other type of shit is disqualifying? What he did, bad.
Yeah.
What about, I don't know, drug use of some sort? Does that mean an automatic disqualification? Or like, what sort of people should never even think about a career in politics because they did something in the past?
Oh my God. Yeah, no, this is complicated. But I would think, do I care that like Barack Obama smoked pot in college? Like
different issue, I guess.
A different issue because A, it's pot, and B, it's not actively harming anyone.
Right.
Like there's no other party involved.
Sure.
Like if somebody, say, got a DUI, I think that's a bigger issue than somebody did coke once or something. Does that make sense?
Did George W. Bush have a DUI at some point when he was younger?
Did he? That wouldn't surprise me.
I think he did. I could be wrong, sorry. But I think he did. But again, like, that to me, if he did it in the past and then he abstained from alcohol for, like, the rest of his life after that, it's like, all right, well, then he made a mistake and then he seemed to make up for it. Like, my issues with him have nothing to do with that.
I think mistake is such a forgiving term almost. I made a mistake by forgetting to let my dog out. Like, that it slipped my mind. When you grab somebody's ass or stick your tongue down their throat, that's not like a slip of the tongue, forgive the expression. Like,
but a DUI could have killed someone too.
Right.
And so it's like, what?
So is a DUI a mistake, or is it somebody who made a bad decision?
Like, you got lucky that it was just you.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, and so that goes back to the question of what have you done since? If I'm right about George W. Bush, that he did that, then
he started 2 wars.
Well, yeah, he has other issues too. But at least in terms of the alcohol,
did he stop drinking?
He stopped drinking.
Oh, I didn't know.
And it's like, all right, well, you fixed that issue. I mean, you seem repentant and like you made up for it.
Mm-hmm.
In Franken's case, like as far as I know, he's never done anything like that since showing this interest in politics or whatever. And that's been more than a decade.
Sure.
And whatever, like he's been really good on those issues. So does that make up for it?
And like,
I mean, didn't Ted Kennedy like drunkenly kill someone at some point?
Probably.
God, I'm bad at this game of recalling stuff that happened in the past. But like, and that pretty much trashed his presidential hopes. But he was still like, what was the quotation for him? He's the lion of the Senate for like decades afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know, because man, I don't know. I'm obviously more eager to find a way to forgive Al Franken. And I want to be really transparent. Like, I really want this to be okay. I understand that it isn't, but like in my heart of hearts, like hearing this news, like I got a text from my friend Anne yesterday morning, just like fucking Franken. I was like, what now? What's happening now? But like, yeah, I am more eager to find a way to make this okay for him to continue doing his work, because I believe he is doing net positive for women in the Senate, right?
Yeah.
But does that make me a big fat fucking hypocrite because I want like Ray Moore to like lock himself in his house and never come out.
Right.
But I also think that he's deeply bad for women in a political sense and is like unqualified for the seat
and
regardless.
The crimes he's been accused of doing. I mean, we're talking multiple instances, and it's pedophilia, and it's like a million times worse.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I'm not trying to rank them.
I know, that's the thing, is when you get into that idea of like, well, is it worse to like stick your tongue down a woman's throat who like doesn't want it versus like taking advantage of a 14-year-old? Like, you hate, like, I can't rank those.
Calling someone out of trig class in high school.
Gross. Like, just gross.
Mm-hmm. And of course it was trig class. No one likes math.
Are you feeling defensive of... Is that what you're getting out of this?
A little bit.
I don't know. This is
never
just
English.
English was awesome. I don't know. It's just been... It's both empowering and disheartening, I guess. It's empowering that we've clearly like entered a new chapter that women are being believed when they tell their stories instead of being slut-shamed or victim blamed or just straight up dismissed, unless you accuse Donald Trump, in which case. Also, did you see Donald Trump's responses to the Franken thing? Because he's been silent on more. He hasn't. I know
he went on Twitter
more.
And started talking shit.
Yeah, he said something, and the Dollop is another podcast I listen to. They just did a 2-part episode, probably 3 hours, on just Donald Trump's life.
Oh God!
And oh God, it is. Like, most of the stuff I had heard, but just hearing it strung along, it just paints a picture of this man who has done whatever he wants for his entire life and has never been told no. And whether that's shoving his hand up a woman's skirt on a plane next to him or, calling somebody a liar with absolutely no foundation, nobody fucking tells this guy no, and that's how we have him as president. But, so he goes on and says, and he's been silent on more, hasn't said shit about it. He goes on Twitter, and he tries to call him... Frankenstein, but he spells Frankenstein wrong, so it's like Frankenstein, which is excellent. And I think he was just doing a nod to my favorite movie, Young Frankenstein. You don't get that reference, do you?
I know it exists.
It's he's the grandson, and he says his name is pronounced Frankenstein because he doesn't want to be it's not. It'll be on our list of movies.
Yes.
And he says, Senator Frankenstein. I don't know why that makes me laugh. That picture was awful. What happened in pictures 3, 4, 5, 6, which I don't know,
which don't
dude,
exist, but
which
he's
A,
saying
don't
they're
exist,
gonna come
and B,
out.
dude, you shoved your hand up at least 2 women's skirts that I
And
know
we do
about
have video of
off
you
the top
talk.
of my head. Like how fucking dare he try to take the moral high ground on this? Like, you motherfucker. Like, what?
We have video of you bragging about this
How
stuff.
is this? How?
Again, another reason in the side of don't resign, Al Franken, because you can take the moral high ground, the other side's not.
But don't you think resigning is like, you're right, I fucked up, I was caught, I'm taking my
Which again,
lumps.
if everyone was doing that and held to that same standard, that's a different issue. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think Democrats would do it, and if he decided that was what's best for everyone,
But that's
to, like you said, be the sacrificial lamb.
right.
But it's not going to happen for the other side,
Yeah.
and then what good does it do?
Yes, that's a good point. Just in like looking at it as politics.
Why do the rules always have to be broken, or the norms and traditions have to be broken by the Republicans, but if Democrats even get close to it,
Right.
like, it's a big giant shitstorm.
But I got like this whole thing that's happening with all these people from Hollywood and comedy, and like the Louis C.K. thing also sucked. That's been like, I've even heard whispers of that. I think that's been like in the rumor mill for a few years that Louis C.K.'s been a shadester. But I lost my train of thought. So it's going on all over the place in every realm of industry we can think of, and I'm like, oh, when's it gonna like trickle up? But it has. Like, women have already accused Donald Trump of assault, and they've been just dismissed out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I guess I'm glad like the Weinsteins of the world are getting knocked down. But when we still have a man who has been accused and admitted sexual assault, what's the point? What are we even doing here? If like we're holding the doubliest of double standards.
I feel like I've heard in the past week more calls for that Bill Clinton should have resigned,
Yeah, that was
but not Donald Trump.
Yeah, Gillibrand said that.
She did.
What do you think about that?
I don't care. Say it now all you want. Doesn't make a difference.
But do you agree?
Are we talking about the accusations or like the Monica Lewinsky stuff?
I don't know. I mean,
because the Monica Lewinsky thing, we could call it unethical, but
Yeah.
it was consensual, and she
Yes.
said as much.
yeah.
If we're talking about the accusations, to be honest, I never followed it
No,
because
I
I was
didn't
too
either.
young when it was happening.
Yeah.
And so whatever. I never had to look into that.
Yeah.
So
Ugh.
I don't know. But
Everything
again,
sucks.
if he had to resign, or we go back in time and say he should have had to resign because of this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
how come that doesn't apply now to Trump?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, I want to go to Roy Moore since we touched on him already. Bad choice of words. So he had a press conference yesterday that was meant to show that he has support among a bunch of conservative Christians and I think one rabbi. And here's the thing.
Cool.
So a bunch of conservatives got together to hold this press conference for him. And, like, I'm watching video of that. Like, they're not helping him because what do you do if you're Roy Moore and you want to show, like, no, you should trust me and you should support me because I don't care about these accusations. Here's why you should support me. You would want to get the most credible people you could find, like, who have some moral authority, who can get up there and say, I would take these accusations very seriously. However, I've known Roy Moore for a very long time and whatever. I don't think he's capable of doing any of this, whatever.
Yeah.
That might be what you would have. Instead, he had people that are like the worst of the right-wing extremist advocates.
But that's the thing is they think that they're moral authorities.
They do. You had Flip Benham, who is this anti-gay.
I'm sorry. What is
Flip.
that name again? Flip Benham?
You had Alan Keyes, the guy who ran against Obama for the Senate way back when, who is like he's like the black guy who thinks any political correctness that is good for black people is bad.
Cool. Really
Gordon
true.
Klingenschmidt. They had activist mommy.
Damn it, these names
from
are
the
too
internet.
much.
They had a rabbi who said during this press conference, he denounced the, quote, abomination of marriage equality and, quote, homosexualist gay terrorism and blackmail. Yep.
That just kept going.
Oh, he also bashed the, quote, anti-God Republicans like McCain and Romney. Really? Anti-God? Like, mm-hmm. And then he said, we need Judge Moore to stand up to the LGBT transgender mafia, which legislates sins that the Bible brands abomination into public policy, thereby advancing laws that result in state-sanctioned abuse of children and adults alike.
Can
so
somebody
the LGBT
tweet me to remind me to make a cross-stitch that says, what was it?
LGBT transgender mafia. They're blaming that mafia for hurting children while the accused pedophile stands a foot away from them. Yeah.
What a monster. Like, I know it's not funny, but like, the hypocrisy is fucking flagrant.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
They're blaming transgender people for assault while the guy who's hitting on 14-year-olds is right next to them.
That's exactly, okay, this is what I yell about week after week about, they talk about protecting kids and they talk about protecting women, and then women or kids come forward and they're like, I was assaulted. They're like, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm trying to talk here.
Yeah. Alan Keyes, later on after the press conference, he's talking to reporters, and by talking, I mean just yelling at everyone in his vicinity.
Sure.
He says
I can
something
relate to that.
like, we will not let you strip him of his personal rights, of his personhood, the way you've stripped our unborn children.
Oh my God.
These people care more about fetuses than 14-year-old victims.
Wait, let's
Yeah.
Let's break that
They
down.
don't want you to like attack Roy Moore and like say
they said strip away his rights.
Yeah, the way
which his right to
I don't know,
run
pedo-
for office.
He has a right to run. We're just saying don't win or leave.
That's the thing. Like, they always yell about rights when they're like, but I can't literally do or say anything I want without fear of repercussion. How dare you? That's my freedom.
We're gonna get to another story about that, about what you could say and not say.
Oh, I have one like that too.
But yeah, it's if you're bringing together like character witnesses, don't find the worst human beings you could think of.
Yeah.
And say these people will convince you to vote for me. Like, you're basically marginalizing yourself to the handful of people, and it's a big handful, but a handful of people who take these people seriously.
Yeah.
Which they were already voting for Roy Moore. They're not your problem.
Right. I was watching some MSNBC show, and a conservative commentator was on. She was like, most people do not approve, like most Christians would never approve of what Roy Moore has done. And the host was like, I'm going to pause you right there because we've got tape of like people who are like, yeah, I like his good Christian values. That's my Alabama accent.
Nice.
It wasn't my best.
There's-
But it's fucking gross is what it is. Like, it's gross. I hate everything.
I know. There's Brian Fisher, another right-wing activist. He made the argument that I've only really heard in Jehovah's Witness circles that we should not take the accusers seriously.
Oh, the two
because you have to have two witnesses. Yeah. And the argument here is that according to the Bible or some verse that he cherry-picked out, you should only take accusations of assault seriously if there were two witnesses, which is weird because the one witness is the victim and the other is who? Who's watching you get assaulted? Because the assaulter is not going to fess up to this. And so apparently you need an audience member when you're assaulted if you want anyone to take you seriously, which doesn't happen. And by the way, the 5 accusers, he said, they have no other witnesses. Yeah, because Roy Moore picked them up and drove away somewhere with them.
What is that, like, the goalpost moving is so upsetting of like, oh, somebody accused him, but it's anonymous, so we can't take it seriously. Like, oh, somebody accused him, but it was 40 years ago, so we can't take it seriously. Oh, somebody accused him, but nobody else was there. How do we know if she's not lying? Like, as if,
by the way, these people want you to take the Bible seriously, even though,
but also
even though no one was there to witness all this stuff
Right.
happening.
God was there.
spoke to Moses. Who heard it? Like, no, he didn't have an audience for that one.
yeah. Hello. I'm just really, really, really sick of white dudes ruining everything all the time. Sorry, white dudes, like, get your act together as a collective.
Do you want to go to a happy story?
Yes.
Okay. There, 2 years ago in Australia, there was this Christian couple, Nick and Sarah Jensen.
I have an Australian story, too.
Oh, good. They made this proclamation that if Australia ever got marriage equality, well, gay people are going to ruin straight marriage.
Yeah.
And so they said, if we pass marriage equality in this country, we're going to get divorced. Why? Because somehow someone has to show that gay marriage would hurt us.
Oh, my God.
So they're like, we're
these
totally going to get
people.
divorced. And it was dumb. Like, they were on the cover of some magazine because I think the magazine's like, you guys are dumb. Want to be on the cover?
Oh, brother.
They're like, yes. And so even... And here's the thing. They said we were going to get divorced, but we're still going to live together, and we're still going to, like, do everything as a family. Oh, we might have more kids, too.
All right, so
but on paper, we're going to get divorced.
Were they trying to prove that, like, marriage doesn't mean anything?
I think that's it.
Like, gay people can just live together? And
if gay people can get married, marriage has no use anymore. Therefore, we might as well just get divorced because the world's over. But the funny thing is, Australian law says you can't get divorced unless you've been separated for like a year and things like that, and you don't live apart, and there's no hope for you to get back together. Like, you tried to reconcile and you decided not to.
Oh, okay.
So they said, like, if there's any reason for us to think you're going to live together again or you're going to get back together, we're not granting you the divorce.
All right, Australia.
So Australia has...
Foot down.
Yep. But they have that rule, which means even if they wanted to get divorced, they couldn't have gotten divorced. But now that postal plebiscite is over and like 60% of Australians said we want marriage equality, and the Prime Minister says we're going to get this done by Christmas.
Yeah, congrats, guys.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah. No offense.
But
Australia,
it sounds like overwhelming support for it. Right. So this lawyer comes in and he's like Michael Tice. And he says, oh, by the way, we haven't forgotten about you, the Jensens. I will help you for free, pro bono. I'll help you with your divorce.
Charge him. His time is valuable.
Just so they take him seriously. So he's saying, I will be of assistance to all of you because I have plenty of experience with family law. And so I'll help you get that divorce that you promised you would do all that time ago. Like, I think he's just trolling them, but man, it's good.
Oh, my God. It's so much. I have one it's somber, but it's kind of outrageously funny also. So thanks to Simon, who is a Facebook friend of mine from Australia. Yeah. This is another Australian story. So in Australia, during a New South Wales Parliament debate, they were debating voluntary assisted dying laws and whether or not that should become law. And so there is a gentleman named Reverend Fred Nile, and he was talking about he was arguing against it because he's anti-whatever. Yeah. So what he said, he had read case studies from the United States of Oregon, whose laws propose legislation. So they're basing their laws loosely on Oregon. And what he said is, quote, in a published and certified incident, a patient signed a consent form that she wanted lethal injection from her doctor to terminate her life. The relatives came in to watch her die, and the patient then said to her doctor, no, I've changed my mind. I don't want to die. The doctor said, but you have signed a consent form. She said no. The doctor said to her relatives, will you hold her down while I give her the lethal injection?
Yeah, that's how it works.
This is Nationals MP, member of Parliament. Is Nationals a party? I assume it's not the baseball team.
I don't know.
Sorry, Australia, I'm doing my best. I said, quote, it is baffling that we cannot find this case. It's nowhere to be found in Oregon history. So it turns out, and Khan also said that
do you know how many obstacles you have in place for assisted suicide laws? Like,
so does Khan.
You have to overcome so many hurdles to get this thing done. And if there's any reason for anyone to think you don't want it done, then it stops.
Right.
Like, they're not going to go through with it.
So what Khan said was, if what Reverend Niles describes as having happened in Oregon did happen, it was not an assisted dying case, but a murder.
Yeah.
The doctor might as well have grabbed an axe from the corridor and bludgeoned the patient to death as they were held down in the bed, because that was what it was, a simple first-degree murder in American context, which is just very, very fun. And he also said that Mr. Niles' story is, quote, not the quality of evidence we should be relying upon to make decisions.
Yeah.
So I did find out that he, given him the greatest benefit of all the benefits of doubt, he deeply misunderstood a story from the Netherlands.
Okay.
That what actually happened was there's an elderly dementia patient who had gone through the channels, expressed a wish to die.
Yeah.
Quote, when the time was right, and medical and family and everybody decided that it was, and she struggled slightly to being sedated, which is still fucking dramatic and horrifying, but it's not somebody looking their doctor in the eye being like, no, I do not want to die. The doctor being like, stab, stab, stab. And that doctor, I think it's worth noting, in the Netherlands was investigated and cleared, having been found to have acted in good faith. So I mean, it's definitely gray, but it's certainly not this
I feel like I've heard those type of rumors when it comes to abortion too, where it's like this woman didn't really want to have an abortion, but Planned Parenthood wanted the fetus or something.
Reverend Nile said that he had not intended to use the story in his contribution to the debate, but, quote, whether God prompted me, I got on a full-blown visual of that report, so just started quoting it from memory. He said, I probably should have had it in front of me.
Yeah.
Which is shit I say on this dumb podcast, not when I'm arguing laws for a country. Anyway, yeah, it's just a lot to be fucking dealing with right now.
So what happened to that law? Now I'm curious.
It failed.
Did it?
Close margin, though. When I wrote it down. The bill is defeated 20 votes to 19.
Ugh.
So it's Thursday night. So
more people get to suffer.
Yeah, no, it's super chill of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the guy was Catholic. Did I mention that?
That makes sense.
Yep. What else you got?
I got one for you. So here's a question. Is Donald Trump
a monster? Yes.
Yes. Pro-life or good for the pro-life movement, in big quote hands? Is he good for the pro-life movement?
I would say it's a trick question. He's good for nothing and no one.
That is also correct.
Good for the pro-life movement.
Yeah.
I would say yes, because he continues to appoint people who would like to... I don't think Donald Trump is smart enough to have a strong opinion one way or the other. I think he repeats what people tell him, and the people around him tell him that fetuses are full-blown humans.
Right. And I think you're right that he'll just listen to his people he doesn't care about the issue, but he'll listen to people around him.
Yeah.
But he's appointed a lot of judicial candidates on high benches who have lifetime appointments who are very anti-abortion, and that's not good news. Mm-hmm. But one professor, Charles Camosi, he's a professor at Fordham. He is anti-abortion.
Where's Fordham? Sorry.
So
Okay.
Camosi, who's written a lot about abortion issues, says, in the short term, Donald Trump is really good because he's basically listening to Mike Pence and Kellyanne Conway, who are both anti-abortion.
It's in New York.
He's said he'll sign a bill to ban 20-week abortions and defund Planned Parenthood, things like that. These are all things pro-lifers want. Mm-hmm. So he's good on this stuff. He's doing things that other Republican presidents have not done because they realized it would be horrible policy. Mm-hmm. At the same time, he says, is pro-life in big quote hands label doesn't really apply because on every other issue of life, he's horrible. So things like nuclear escalations, that's not good for life.
Wait, who's this guy who's talking?
Camosi.
Is he conservative?
He is.
Is he self-proclaimed pro-life?
Yes.
Okay. I know what you're about to say, and I'm going to say fuck right off with that. Do not pretend that most pro-life people are super into making sure everybody has affordable health care and the water is clean and we don't get fucking bombed by nukes. Fuck you, dude. Like, do not act like you pro-lifers have the moral high ground when it's pro-choicers who are like, hey, we just want to reduce the number of abortions. We just don't want to fucking ban it. And also, yeah, I would like to make sure that the reason people get abortions isn't because they can't fucking afford to have another mouth to feed or can't work and support a child at the same time. So fuck right off with your moral superiority, you motherfucker.
Very good. So Camosi said, yeah, Trump is upping the nuclear escalation. He's not welcoming refugees. He's hurting healthcare. All this is bad for pro-life anything. And again, most pro-lifers, I would say, don't want that stuff. They're on the side of Trump, and like they want to see healthcare ruined. They want to see immigrants
this
locked out.
Fucking
but
infuriating.
here's where Camosi made a point that actually made some sense. He said, if we can enjoy the fruits of whatever Trump is doing right now because it's good for the cause of, if you hate abortion, then he's good for you. But he said, in the long term, Trump is such a horrible human being in so many other ways that, like, just mentioning his name stirs up so much, like, emotions
Not me.
in people. Oh, he does. He does. That for the next several generations, someone else is going to be in power eventually. And pro-lifers are now going to have to contend with the idea that, oh, you support Trump and everything he does.
Yeah, it's almost like the entire GOP sold their fucking soul for the White House.
And so in the long term, more people are going to be turned off, Camosi said, to the pro-life cause because of Trump. And so you can enjoy the judicial appointments now, but in the long term, this is going to hurt us, he said, to
I don't
his
think
people.
that's true.
You don't?
No.
Because?
I think that the kind of people who voted for Trump for this reason don't give a fuck about anything else. And if they voted for Trump because he's quote unquote pro-choice or pro-life rather, then they will vote for fucking anybody who toes that same line. I think to act like people are what?
Roy Moore.
Yeah, to act like people who voted for Trump because they thought he would be good for pro-life issues while understanding that he was going to gut Medicare, especially people who were relying on Medicare and Medicaid still voted for him because they were single issue voter. It's fucking garbage. I think it's dumb and naive to pretend that all of a sudden these people are going to find all this fucking nuance, because I'll tell you what, the kind of people who voted for Trump still support him. I read an article last week maybe of a guy had driven around and was taking pictures of people with their like homemade Trump signs. Okay. So like they would like paint the side of their barn or their truck or like make whatever. And he said, a year after the election, how do you think he's doing? And there was like one B- and everybody else was A's. Like they still think he's doing a great job. So no, dude, like you can't have it both ways. You can't pretend that like, oh, I'm a Republican, but I'm not that kind of Republican, because you yoked yourself to him. The Republican Party has yoked themselves to Trump, and sorry, that's who you guys are now.
Yep.
Deal with it.
I hope it hurts them. I don't know that it will, but let's hope. I
have two more.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm mad. Okay. Here's one that will give me good shock and fruit. So, have you heard of somebody named Wes Goodman?
Go on.
He is a Republican.
Okay. Oh, yes.
He's a state legislator in Ohio, married to a woman, known for his anti-LGBTQ stances.
Okay.
And Hammett, he just resigned.
Why did he resign?
Because he was fucking men in his office.
That makes sense.
So that happened. So
he resigned?
He resigned.
Did he resign because he was having an affair, or did he resign because it was an affair with a guy? Or because it was in his office? What's the bigger issue here?
He cited inappropriate conduct. So there are a few points that I really do want to make clear. Is that from all accounts it was a consensual relationship. Okay. So
there's that.
So there's one bright side in this clusterfuck. So this anti-LGBTQ gentleman was not just like picking up sex workers on the side. From what I can tell, and you know what, I shouldn't say that. I don't know who this man was, whether he was in a relationship with him or it was like a sex worker or whatever that he brought to his office. But this motherfucker was known for being anti-gay. So
They always are.
They always are. Time after time we see this.
The more anti-gay they are, the more like... Ugh.
Yeah, so...
the more likely they are to be caught in this sort of affair.
House Speaker Cliff Rosenberg, who's a Republican as well, said he spoke to Goodman after learning about the allegations. And he admitted to having consensual sex with a man. Rosenberger said he was alerted to details yesterday afternoon involving inappropriate behavior, blah, blah, blah. I met with him later in that day where he acknowledged and confirmed the allegations. It became clear that his resignation was the most appropriate course of action for him, his family, and the constituents, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm going to read... I just want to get your hot take on what Goodman's take was.
Yeah.
First of all, his slogan was Christian, American, Conservative, Republican.
Uh-huh.
Nice. Quote, we all bring our struggles and our own trials into public life. That has been true for me, and I sincerely regret that my actions and choices have kept me from serving my constituents and our state in a way that reflects the best ideals of public service. For those whom I have let down, I'm sorry. As I move on to the next chapter of my life, I sincerely ask for privacy for myself, my family, and my friends.
What does he think he did wrong? Is it that... Again, back to the same question. Is the problem that he was with a guy, or the problem is that he was doing this in the office? Because if he did it, like, at his home somehow, like, would he still be resigning?
I mean, so neither his nor Rosenberger's statements did they just said inappropriate conduct.
Uh-huh.
So maybe they don't differentiate the two. Maybe it's not important to them to, like, put a finger on which was bad.
Like, if he was with a woman in his office...
I mean, I think if he had gotten caught with a woman in his office, I would...
Probably resign, too.
Yeah, right? Because that's fucked.
And
like, it's one thing to have an affair, but to do it in your office when you're a state representative, like, get a Motel 6, dude.
Okay, so if he was caught in the Motel 6 with a guy, then does he resign?
I mean, probably only because of his anti-gay stances.
Yeah, so he's known hypocrite now.
Yeah, you can't... Like, how do you recover from that?
Yeah.
Is it one of those, like, I'm like, oh, I'm not gay, I just like fucking men kinds of things that because you hear that sort of like mental gymnastics of like, oh, I'm not a gay, I just like fucking dudes. That's not the same thing. Or like, I'm not gay because I don't give head, I just get head. Sorry, kids who are listening. Anyway, so that was a...
he's out now.
Yeah, so later, dude. See you
Bye.
never.
Here's one for you.
Okay.
A Muslim Barbie is now a thing.
Oh,
it's based on a
with a burqa,
Olympian.
right?
Yes, and it has a burqa. So the question is, this is based on an American Olympic fencer, Ibtihaj Muhammad. They were building the Barbie doll to model after her.
Right.
She wears a hijab, so the Barbie has a hijab. So the question is, okay, fine, cool that you have a Muslim Barbie, but should she have a hijab? Because isn't that oppressive? And doesn't that suggest that Muslim women should be wearing it, or that if they don't wear it, there's a problem?
Do you think that, or are you just throwing that out there?
I could care less either way.
Are people, I guess, are you reflecting commentary that you've heard?
Yeah. David McAfee, who writes for Friendly Atheist, he basically put something out there, which is to say, we can have debates over the hijab and whether it's good or bad for women, for Muslim women, because while American Muslims more or less have the choice of whether to wear it or not all Muslim women have that choice. And so...
And I think it's debatable whether American Muslim women have that choice, because that's painting a... like, technically they all have the choice, but when you look at, like, individual communities or families...
There, sure. So then the question is, like, in her case, in the case of the fencer, well, she chooses to wear it. She's said that, I think, in different interviews. And if you're going to make a doll about her, then have it, because why wouldn't you? So I don't think Barbie and the people behind it are to blame for doing that. Again, I don't think the debate over whether or not a woman should wear a hijab has anything to do with this Barbie.
I don't think so either.
So I don't know. Some people were freaking out because they're like, this is crazy. People are like, we're spreading Sharia. No, this is.
Oh no! Wait, I'm so.
There are some people who think
people in our community or
No.
like Christians.
I don't even know Christians. I think there's some people who see this Barbie doll with the hijab and they're like, they are acting like Mattel is telling women who are Muslim, like, you have to wear it, or that there's something right about the hijab.
I mean, you know I love to get mad about shit, but that is the most absurd reading of that entire fucking situation.
So yeah, not a big deal. I'm not getting worked up over it.
Yeah.
I do have one more for you that's somewhat of a happier story.
Yeah, I have one more
it's
too.
Just funny.
I feel like we have the same one.
We might.
What state does yours take place in?
I don't know. It's Jim Bakker.
Oh.
Jim
no, I have a
Bakker, the
different one.
televangelist.
Oh, good.
Whose show is still going for some reason. He said, and I quote, "They outlawed Merry Christmas a few years ago."
Sure did.
He said, "You couldn't even say Merry Christmas at Walmart." And
Nope.
the Walmart greeters told me they weren't allowed to say it, but we all started writing. And what did we do? We changed it.
So
we
brave.
changed it. We all worked together. You don't have to lay down for it. The hell is he talking about?
You're so brave, Jim Bakker. Oh my God.
When
You're
was-
the real hero.
Yeah. First of all, who
Idiot.
is he writing to? Santa? Like,
He's writing to Sir Walmart.
yeah.
Sam Walton. I know who Sam Walton is, you guys.
Yes.
You don't have to write me.
So who is what? When was it outlawed? There's a difference between a company that says, "Hey, we serve a diverse clientele here, so maybe Happy Holidays is a better way to greet people," versus you're going to get a ticket and be put in jail for saying Merry Christmas, which is what he made it sound like.
Okay. Sorry. This is one of those things. It happens every year. Like, it happened, 4 years ago that What's-Her-Face said, like, Santa is white. Like,
Oh yeah, Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly, like, watching conservatives, like, get so in a tizzy about dumb, arbitrary shit about, like, which everything we know about Christmas basically was invented by the fucking Coca-Cola company. So, like, let's not pretend that the baby Jesus really cares about whether Santa is white or black. This is one of those, like, those things that I will, like, read internet arguments about a lot because I read, like, on, like, an NBC News Chicago type thing.
Yeah.
I just like to read the comments because at some point somebody wrote, like, really the most reasonable thing, like the reasonable stance on it that I can think of is, well, if I'm a company, I don't want to assume that the person in front of me or any people who shop here are celebrating Christmas. But I do know that Christmas is coming and Hanukkah is around now. And certainly New Year's is coming, right? So if nothing else, New Year's is coming. So isn't it sort of gentler and kinder and like more accepting to say like, Happy Holidays, and if they say Merry Christmas, great, and if they don't celebrate Christmas, that's fine. But like, how is Happy Holidays not okay? Because it means the same fucking thing.
Because
And
you're not
people
treating
like
Christians
jump
as
down this
special.
woman's throat just to like they're so mad about it, and it like just like I don't miss Bill O'Reilly and I hate him, but God, he got so riled up around Christmas and the war on Christmas and I'm so, like, imagine a life where the biggest thing that you got riled up on is that this holiday, which you and the majority of the country celebrates, everybody has the day off for, an entire economy is based around it. But if that Target checkout woman doesn't fucking say Christmas to your face, you're being oppressed.
Yes.
It's just,
I wish I had that lack of problems.
oh my God. It just fills me with such glee because they have the same amount of rage I have about like women dying because of a lack of access to healthcare, but they have that same like spitfire anger about like the words Merry Christmas.
Yep.
And like,
And by the way, they say Merry Christmas at pretty much every store I go to.
do they? I
Yeah, and it's
I don't
fine.
know
I don't
or
care.
I don't care. Like if somebody would, it's just fucking
They
dumb.
didn't outlaw it.
Okay, so do I have
Yes.
the last one then?
Please.
While I'm talking, first listen to me and be engaged, but also think of your happy thing.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and you owe me
I
two
owe
this
you
week.
bitch.
Okay, so a woman in Texas has been arrested. So she was arrested on a previously outstanding warrant that she wasn't aware of, but she was brought into the spotlight because she has a big white pickup truck in Texas that says, those big stickers that go in the back windows. A lot of times you'll see like an eagle or like a Confederate flag back there. Fuck Trump and fuck you for voting for him. And Lord, I love it so much. So essentially what happened, so this woman eventually got arrested, but a lot of people are calling out this sheriff. So his name is Sheriff Troy E. Nehls, N-E-H-L-S, Nehls. He put up don't touch my feet with your feet.
Your feet are in my way.
They're on my chair.
I was stretching.
I hate it. He said that he has received numerous calls regarding the offensive display on this truck as it is often seen along FM 369. I don't know what that means.
The road.
FM?
I don't know.
Firm migratory?
Never heard of it.
If you know who owns a truck or it is yours, I would like to discuss it with you. This is on his Facebook page. Our prosecutors informed us that she would accept disorderly conduct charges regarding it, but I feel we can come to an agreement regarding a modification to it.
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of people are like, you can't post pictures of somebody's truck as an authority figure and call them out in public. That's really fucked.
It's like a weird official form of doxing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So a lot of people kind of are flipping out about it. She is in jail, but I lost my spot. I don't remember what she's actually.
I think the ACLU got involved in that too, right?
Yeah,
saying
they did.
No, you can't do this, and to whoever owns the truck, get in touch with us.
Oh, also she has a really lovely, this is a woman after my own heart, because she said she's been repeatedly stopped by law enforcement while driving the truck and received negative reactions, quote, particularly from older white men. She's living my truth.
Nice.
So I think it's worth noting that, according to something that I read, so profanity is sometimes but not always protected under the First Amendment. 42, Supreme Court ruled that certain, quote, fighting words, which they said fighting words, but I think fighting words should be on the official documents, which would tend to incite violence, are not protected. But in 1971, the Supreme Court overturned the conviction of a man who wore a jacket in a courtroom with the words "fuck the draft." There's something I really enjoy about sort of this really. And we talk about a lot that people get more mad about swearing than they do about people being like bigots. And I just think that's this really delightfully funny and sad and weird thing that our society has, that they're like, oh, how dare you use the F word or whatever. But I don't know, Trump called all Mexicans rapists. So I feel like even though he didn't technically swear, I'm more offended by the things he said, I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's all I have.
I like it.
Thank you.
Are we good?
Do you have your happy things?
Yeah, fuck. Here's a happy thing. I read an article that made me smile. That was, I think it was on BuzzFeed, and it was about people who listen to podcasts at way faster rates.
Jesse Thorne was mad about this.
Yeah, the podfasters. Which is totally what I do, by the way.
Do you really?
Yeah, all the time.
Seriously? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I might listen at 1.5 times the normal speed, maybe 1.2 if it's one I like, but I'm always going faster than usual.
But is it a thing of I have more things to listen to than I have time to listen?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's like I'm on a drive and these shows are slow. Moving along. I get it.
Honestly, when I hear that, I think about myself and how quickly I talk. And can you listen to me at 1.5? I don't think you could understand me.
Now, I don't go 2 times or 3 times like some of the people they were talking to.
Nightmare fuel.
Here's the problem with that. I kind of like having some podcasts on in the background sometimes if I'm driving or doing something else because it's a nice, pleasant distraction. But if it's going 2 to 3 times the speed, now I got to listen to everything. Otherwise, I'll miss it.
Yeah.
But if it's like an interview or something like ours where we're just talking about stuff, it's I can forward it.
I prefer informed debate, but we were talking about stuff.
But if it's like a just any interview show or
Yeah.
something where it's like, I'm interested in the interview, but I don't need every question this speed.
Oh, I see
Like,
what you
I'll
mean.
just speed it up so they talk like more my speed anyway. And then it's like, all right, I didn't even know I was on the faster speed. So I do that all the time.
I have done that a couple times that like I accidentally hit the button.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are they talking so fast? Like, God, did they just do coke in the bathroom before they recorded? And I'm like, no, it's at 1.5 speed. No, see, I kind of have the opposite problem that like I have a weird thing about like if I start listening to something, I will continue to listen to it even if I don't enjoy it as much anymore. Like I feel obligated to for whatever reason. And about 6 months ago, I sort of cut that out. I was like, okay, if it's been sitting in my queue for 3 weeks, like I don't have to listen to a thing I don't want to.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to like refill with things that I actually do want to listen to.
Yeah.
So I always have like my dozen shows or whatever I subscribe to a week, and then like I have something going on in the background, and it's usually just like a real like going through the back catalog of something. So I'm always need more podcasts. My happy thing, speaking of podcasts.
Yeah.
So tonight and Sunday, I'm going to see my favorite podcast, My Brother and Me.
Oh, really?
They're in Chicago Theater tonight.
Nice.
So I'm going with my brother and some of our friends. And then for my birthday, Kevin is my brother who's on the show, got us tickets to the Milwaukee show.
Oh,
so we're
fun.
going to, on Sunday, we're going to road trip up together. We're going to bounce around. If anybody has any thoughts of places to go in Milwaukee, shoot me a tweet because we're looking for stuff to do just to bounce around. So I'm really psyched about it.
That'll
Like
be
I
fun.
really like them and they make me happy and their fans are super nice and chill and I like them. So yeah. So
Is it popular that they could fill up the Chicago Theater?
they filled up. They added a second show.
Wow.
So they had a show last night and tonight. I don't think they have a third show, but at least the two.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm super stoked.
I don't think I've seen a podcast live other than like atheist ones at like atheist-y events.
Oh, I've seen a lot. I've
Yeah.
seen My Favorite Murder twice. I saw The Dollop earlier
Yeah.
this year. That was a lot of fun. And then Max Fun did Very, Very Fun Day earlier this year. So I watched like 5 or so there. That's when Ross Blotcher was in town.
Oh, okay.
And
I think
tried-
I saw a live taping of Wait, Don't Tell Me, but that was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, and we've kind of been talking,
We'll do it
slightly
at some point.
about trying to do a live show. And we're just trying to figure out what that would look like. Because,
Right.
I mean, the ones I've seen, it's literally just like 2 people sitting at a table. Like,
Yeah.
will people come and see us just sit at a table?
So what do they do at the theater tonight?
Sit at a table.
Oh, yeah.
And like they fill the fucking auditorium. They literally have a long table. And they all sit there and like Griffin has his laptop open so he can read Yahoo Answers. And that's what they do. And people eat it up.
Nice.
I love it. I'm psyched about it. Anyway, we'll figure that out.
That's awesome.
Cool. Well, my Twitter is Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. Heavens is his name.
Haven't
'cause
met it.
He was an early adopter / smart. My Etsy shop is Bitches Get Stitched Done. It's been going really well. You can use offer code Atheist for, again, I want to say 15% off, but I did put that in a few weeks ago and forgot. Email us, Friendly Atheist Podcast. Haven't heard from you guys.
gmail.com. And again, patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast.
We're gonna watch Star Wars
Yeah, we are.
someday. Is there anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
We
You
will-
know what
What?
yeah, what's our sign off?
Bye.
Fuck.